Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Glittering Bell Jar. I am here with our amazing co-host, Valerie. Valerie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I am just roasting in my office. I don't know if anyone's watching on YouTube, but it is summertime as we're recording, and I've started turning red. I don't know what this new thing is that I do where I get hot and I just turn red. That's what summer does to me. I need to move somewhere cooler, like Canada.
Yeah.
That's the only place that came to mind.
Yeah, I feel that. Although I have friends who are in Bend right now, and they're in like
Mhm.
sweaters. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
West.
it's wild. The world is upside down. Yeah. Enough about the weather, though. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. I am drinking some Lambrusco. If there are any people over the age of 21, I'm now obsessed with Lambrusco. I didn't know what it was. It is a red sparkling wine that is chilled. It's
This seems like
amazing.
a not a real thing. Is it good? Is it like good? Do wine people like it, or is it like a not a wine that is real?
I don't know, but I like it.
Okay, well that's all that matters. You're the one drinking it.
Yeah. No, I think you should try it. I'm telling you, I think it's good. I mean,
Okay,
I'll let you know, like offline, if I think wine snobs like it. I'm not sure, but I'll Google it and let you know.
okay,
So,
okay. Well, thank you.
yeah.
I would have a glass. I
Yeah.
actually was eating a piece of celery today, and don't ask me how. Stabbed myself in the mouth with celery and have like a big fat lip on the inside. I don't know what is from
Oh,
my. I'm like a. I don't know if anyone else is like this. My mouth is like a battle zone. I don't know if I just eat sloppy. I don't know. I constantly have problems in my mouth. Luckily, no canker sores. I'm pretty sure when we started recording this season, I had a terrible canker sore and I had a lisp for like 4 or 5 episodes as it was healing.
yep. And then you gave it to me. I was convinced,
Oh,
over the internet. Because then I got one the next episode. I'm like, oh my
yeah.
God.
Make sure you make it clear it was over the internet because first of all, canker sores are not contagious, and second of all, we're not making out even if they were. So this is not that kind of episode. We say snogging. Is that what it is? We're not snogging because we're in British world.
Oh my gosh. Must be
Oh, all right.
Lambrusco.
Well, yeah. See, I'm not even
Anyways.
drinking it. I'm just being silly over here.
Well, if this is your first time listening to us, we are reading the Harry Potter series backwards. So we have started with the 7th book, and that was last season 1. You should go back if you haven't been there. And starting all the way at the back of the book and then going forward, we are now reading Half-Blood Prince, and we are in the middle. So again, if you have listened to season 1, then you haven't listened to season 2, we recommend that you go back all the way to the beginning of season 2 or all the way back to season 1 because it will just make way more sense. Because honestly, we're really smart and we thought of some fun points that we point out throughout the entire series, and we don't want you to miss it. We want you to have all of the experience.
I feel like there's some characters in these books who have a big ego, and one of them is Dumbledore, as an aside, and he'll be like, "Forgive me, I am really intelligent, but here's the really intelligent thing I have to say." And I love that because it's like we should just be like, if I'm smart, I shouldn't have to apologize or dumb myself down. But yeah, we do reference back and forth. That's the key here. We do reference past chapters, past episodes. And so it will just make more sense if you've heard them. Otherwise, you're gonna be like, "What are they talking about? Why are they referring to pants? What's the funny joke about pants?" See, that's one of the ones that I'm really bummed that did not do as well on social media as I thought it would. And I made a very
Yeah.
good cover image for that reel. If you haven't seen it, you should go check us out on Instagram at BellJarPod because I had to get very creative to make sure that we weren't going to get flagged by any of the indecency filters when talking about flaming pants on Instagram.
So to support Valerie, you should go to Instagram, find the reel, and just share it. We can make it go viral, even later.
Mm-hmm.
That's the magic of reels. They can go
Mm-hmm.
viral at
That
any
is the
time.
magic of reels. That is true. That is
Yeah.
true. Okay, so today we're covering chapter 11. This is episode
Mhm.
20. As I said, Bree's covered. We're moving backward, so the chapters are going down in number as the episode numbers are going up. This is Hermione's helping hand, and as usual, we're going to start off with a synopsis of the chapter from Bree.
All right. At Hogwarts, the 6 years are hard at work learning that even in their free time, they are struggling to keep up with all the homework. Harry is hosting Quidditch tryouts, and it is a large turnout, including at least 10 girls who merely giggled the entire time, a few Hufflepuffs, and even some Ravenclaws. Which, according to Hermione, is due to Harry's popularity because he is the chosen one.
You got to say
The
fancy
tryouts.
ability. It's
Okay,
such an
fancy
unusual
ability.
word.
The tryouts ended with both Ginny and Ron making it onto the team. Imagine that. No nepotism there. Uh, After tryouts, they head to Hagrid's hut to try and smooth things over with him, as he had been ignoring them since the beginning of school when they did not sign up for his class. So rude. Hagrid ends up breaking down and letting them know he's really upset because Aragog is dying. Once back at the castle, Slughorn corners Harry and invites him to one of his exclusive parties, insisting that he can get him out of detention with Snape.
Which does not happen because in the final sentence, which I'm about to read, you will learn that Snape always gets his detention. So here we go. It's not the final sentence again. Lately, the final sentences have required a little bit of extra context. So here we go. Harry, said the new chaser Demelza Robbins, appearing suddenly at his shoulder, I've got a message for you. From Professor Slughorn, asked Harry, sitting up hopefully. No, from Professor Snape, said Demelza. Harry's heart sank. He said you're to come to his office at 8:30 tonight to do your detention, no matter how many party invitations you've received. And he wanted you to know that you'll be sorting out rotten flobberworms from good ones to use in potions, and he says there's no need to bring protective gloves. Right, said Harry grimly. Thanks a lot, Demelza. Yeah. So I had to read a lot to make that. None of that would have made sense if I hadn't started several pieces of dialogue earlier.
It's true. No, you had to read all of that. Yeah. Poor Harry. You know Snape was like, oh, let us not. Trying to get out of detention to go to a party and getting a professor to do it for him. Mm-hmm. He must think he's so special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, it being, you could just imagine Slughorn, like, good-naturedly going to Snape. And Snape, they're very different temperaments as professors and people. And so Slughorn people, but Harry's wonderful. Why can't he have it? Come on, Severus, just be kind. I'm putting on a good Slughorn here. And Snape,
yeah, you really were. I like
that. And Snape just being like, no, no, I'm not even entertaining this. This is not a discussion. He's showing up to my detention, and I'm going to make this new student who Harry's never really met before be the bearer of bad news. I kind of read that quote and she's like, it's like going to the boss and telling the boss that something bad is happening and he has to deal with it. It's like, I don't really want to tell you this, but I was told I have to. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah, those were very good impressions of both. I feel like that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I love imagining the scenes off page. Like those are the ones that are fun now that we're moving so much more. When I read these books, by the way, we've never talked about it. I could read these books in a couple days and we're doing it day by day for 30 days, which is just way slower than I would ever go. And it means I pick up a lot more than I ever would.
Mm-hmm. And then I think about it way more because each chapter I think about it way more.
Yeah.
Because I just want to keep reading it and I can't. So I have to obsess over the details.
Right. We can't, well, one, we're reading backward, and two, we can't get ahead of ourselves and when we're planning to record because then you don't remember anything.
Also true. Yeah. So what did you pick up?
So yeah, the first thing that I had, this is a chapter I did not have a lot of notes in. And for some reason, my book is really bugging me today. It's like I did something to the spine and it doesn't want to stay open. Anyway, this chapter has a lot of Ron and Hermione tension in it, which is not something I remembered. So it starts out pretty early on the way to Quidditch trials where Lavender reveals her crush on Ron. That's how I read it anyway, when she gives him a wide smile. And this is October, so this is quite a few weeks before they actually end up getting together, and then they end up staying together for quite a few weeks after they wish they weren't together anymore. And then that makes Hermione kind of sullen, and then at the end of Quidditch trials, Hermione congratulates Ron. What?
Hold on, you're skipping the first tension, was when Ron is jealous of Hermione because Hermione is trying to make fun of / hype up Harry, talking about how everyone wants to date him and all the girls like him and that he's gotten really tall and handsome, and Ron's a little, he's like, I'm tall. Well, I have a scar from the brain eating me.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. I feel like there's a lot of, you could read this whole book from the perspective of Ron, which is very different than how Harry experiences this year.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I had to interrupt you. So
it's
that's
okay.
The first one.
I guess I don't really see that one because I guess it's not true, but like in my head, I just know that Hermione's not interested in Harry, so it doesn't feel like it necessarily has the same tension as when Lavender enters the scene. But Ron thinks that Hermione's into Harry. That's part of why he leaves them in Deathly Hallows. So yeah, I can see now that you point that out. So yeah, but the whole chapter is like that, just going back and forth of Ron and his emotions. Like Ron is actually leading the way in this whole dating thing that they're entering at 16 years old. It made me think back to being 16, and when you have a crush on someone, it's like, I don't know how old you were when you started dating, but I really didn't start dating until I was about 16. And so it was like not really knowing how to talk to each other, and then like something's there, like it takes Ron and Lavender weeks weeks to get together, and that is a very 16-year-old thing. Like as you get older, you just like, I'm going to communicate what I need, and if that works or if it doesn't. Yeah, I just found that that was a really interesting piece of this chapter that might not seem important, but obviously is important for these characters because it's revealing Ron is increasingly aware of being an adolescent boy and that there are girls around him. And that's pretty important when one of his best friends is a girl.
Yeah. I did notice a lot of that tension as well. That's really funny. I feel like a lot of people are going to be maybe not though. Maybe like all us Harry Potter nerds, like we're all just like a little bit more of late bloomers, you know? Like we all started dating at like 16, where most of my friends were like 14. So
yeah,
that,
I feel like I was
funny.
pretty late, but I'm like, I wasn't that late because the kids in the book that I loved were at the same age when they started dating. I mean, I guess technically is it last book, moving chronologically, Order of the Phoenix, that Cho and Harry are dating, but that's still the 15. It's not that young or that old.
Yeah, that's true.
What did you get from this chapter?
Sure. So a couple things. The first thing I will note though, because you're talking about relationships, is it's fun to watch Harry slowly watch Ginny.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a moment in the chapter whenever Ginny is playing with the pygmies, and he's just casually watching her and waiting for, I think, Hermione to say something, and he's just off like kind of daydreaming about her. And I think the previous chapter there was another moment whenever Harry wanted her to go to Hogsmeade with him, but she was going with Dean. And then he like kind of thought, he just had like a couple thoughts. He was just like, oh, I wish she was supposed to meet up with us, and she never did. Oh, that's a bummer. Like slowly start to realize that he likes her, but just like he's a little slow on the dating stuff. So
yeah, it takes him a while to tune into it in this book.
Yeah.
Well, you said Ginny, and actually the next note that I have mentions Ginny, but it was something I wanted to bring up last episode. I kind of alluded to it, is this whole experience that Ron is having in this book. It's not related to dating, but it is about being left out of Slughorn's club, and how that, I was thinking about it as I was reading, and I was like, Harry gets invited, Hermione gets invited, Ginny gets invited to these various events. It's like literally the opposite of what Ron sees in the Mirror of Erised. Ron wants to stand head and shoulders above his family, and Slughorn manages to do literally the opposite by inviting everyone around him to these events and ignoring him. And I really find that interesting that Slughorn wouldn't have the insight to realize that if Harry and Hermione are significant witches and wizards, and Ginny is too, that Ron wouldn't be. Like, I would be looking at the students who are seemingly important in the system that they're in and being like, is there anyone I'm missing? Not just like, do they have an important family? And I think that Slughorn sort of misses out by ignoring Ron, because when Ron's on form in anything, he's awesome, right? Like in Quidditch or in life, but when he's neglected, he's a drag on the whole system.
Right, but to a professor, I could see how, like, Hermione's obviously very bright. She makes great grades. She's a valedictorian, assumingly. Obviously, I don't think they have that, but they have probably something similar. And Harry is, the chosen one. Ginny is obviously a very bright witch, maybe the best in her class as far as maybe she's like Hermione in that way. And then also she's on the Quidditch team, where Ron is, all in all, if you were just looking in from the outside, kind of an average guy. Like, sure, he comes from a cool wizarding family. He's a prefect, but his grades are okay. He's on the Quidditch team like a couple other people. Like, what is he doing that is extraordinary? What makes him so special?
I mean, to me, it would be he's friends with all of the most important people. That has to mean something. Like, they don't, like, most people who are important don't hang out with unimportant people. That's, to me, I would just be like, there's this third piece and this third person here, and he's related to this other really bright witch. I should maybe give him a try and invite him to dinner, I don't know. To me, that's just the way I feel, like, that Slughorn doesn't even give him a chance. He doesn't even look at him. And it's like, but if he's friends with the chosen one and friends with the smartest girl in the class, he's got to have something that they find worthwhile to have around. Like, they wouldn't be spending time with him if he didn't have something.
True. I mean, you're right. I can also see how Slughorn would just be like, eh.
Yeah, well, Slughorn's obviously self-absorbed and vain, and he's only collecting students that serve him, really. Like, he just wants to have people that serve him, and he must not think Ron has any potential, which is his loss, because Ron does fine.
It's true.
Yeah. What else did you have?
Sure. One quick thing. Again, Harry and his relationships with men. He is sad that Lupin doesn't write to Harry like Sirius did. And Lupin is more and more I always really liked Lupin, but I'm seeing him more and more as just a very, very sad character because of, for obvious reasons. He is sad that he's a werewolf, and he's sad, he doesn't feel good enough, and he even obviously doesn't feel good enough to be a father figure to Harry because he's so absorbed in his own drama that he can't think like, I should write him. I should reach out to this kid that could use a father figure. And he just lost Sirius. He lost his dad, and his dad was one of my best friends. He was my best friend. I should do this thing. And he still does not feel good enough. And I hate that for Harry, that even the last remaining, Mordor, like he doesn't make it. He doesn't really make the effort that he should in the ways that he should. And that just, man, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does for Harry that he doesn't have anybody who steps up to fill that role when Sirius dies. And that's some way in service of the narrative that Harry realizes he has to stand alone, but also, it does make him very emotionally vulnerable because he doesn't have really anyone he can talk to. Especially, I would say, we talked about it in the chapter where they're at the Burrow, which I think was like episode 15 or something, how Harry finally gets to the Burrow for Christmas and immediately confides in Lupin and Mr. Weasley. Like he's been needing someone to talk to. And that's like one of the first things he does when they have a moment of privacy is he tries to talk to somebody other, because it seems like everyone else is not hearing him.
Yeah, for sure. And like, also, why didn't Mr. Weasley reach out? You know what I mean? He's kind of he's a very smart doofus, but he's a little bit of he's a little aloof.
Or
aloof,
Mrs.
maybe.
Weasley, yeah. Yeah. I wonder though, I feel like all of this is sort of giving us the foundation of what Lupin says in Deathly Hallows when he says to Harry through the wireless, I would tell Harry that his instincts are good and almost always right. This is all that foundational stuff where everyone's kind of ignoring Harry and he's like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. And nobody cares, or they disregard him. And then it turns out he's right over and over, including in some ways about Snape. Like through most of the seventh book, they don't, even Harry doesn't know that Snape was a good guy posing as a bad guy. So when Snape, all this time Harry's been saying that Snape is a bad guy, and nobody's been listening to him, and then he kills Dumbledore, and everybody's like, Harry does actually pick up on a lot of stuff. He's not just prejudiced. And so I think that maybe that's what that is with Lupin, especially, is that Lupin can look back with insight and say, no, Harry's actually a really smart wizard, and I need to remind him of that.
Yeah, I like that. That's true. So one last thing, and I'm struggling because, I'm sorry, but especially at our age, like we just didn't have that many female heroes. We are getting more and more, which is fantastic. Still not enough, but obviously Hermione, you've said it before, she's a badass. However, this book, I forgot, she's kind of annoying, this book, and I don't like it because she's such a rule follower. But here she is. She confounded McLadden. She's such a rule follower, and she's just like, whatever, no big deal. And like, props to Harry for not giving her a hard time, because he could have, because he breaks one little rule and Hermione like is all over him. Like, what do you think about that? Her just like confounding him. Like, what?
Yeah, I want Harry. The problem is we're moving backward, right? So like we see the chessboard from further out, but I want Harry to be like, I'm not going to say I told you so, which was Hermione's line when it turned out that Sectum Sempra was a terrible spell. It's like Hermione only breaks the rules. I almost wonder what her motivation is. Like, is it just she knows? Well, she says it. She says McLaggen was going to be a terrible teammate, and you should have heard what he was saying, and he was not. But it's like, is that it? Is she also just not want to have Ron be complaining about how he didn't make the team? Like I don't know.
I did think about that. She's probably like, I can't handle him complaining the whole time and whining. Like, or like, does love make you do crazy things and break rules that you normally wouldn't break and do things you would not do?
Right.
But she loves him so much.
Yeah. Who does she break the rule for? Is she breaking the rule for Harry? Is she breaking the rule for Ron? Is it a bit of both? Probably a bit of both.
For herself, so she don't have to hear him.
Yeah. 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 I agree. Yeah. Hermione is, it's a weird thing to me that she is so averse to the prince, because that's sort of the like the theme throughout the book, is that she does not like the Half-Blood Prince and any of the contents of the book.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, to me, I would think about how innovation comes from people breaking rules generally, or doing something that's never been done before. That's what innovation is defined as. So how does she think that magic gets better, or people have better lives using magic, if they never experiment or explore with it? And if she had found the book, would she have turned it in? Would it made her an even better? Or would she have viewed it as an educational resource? Because it really is. It's just teaching Harry, and it's making him really good at something he wasn't good at. Wouldn't that be something that Hermione would think is a good thing?
I feel like you're so right that she'd be like, this is an educational resource.
Yeah. I mean, think
Whenever
about
she's the one.
right. How different would it have been, like, if Hermione had gotten it, or if Harry had gotten it, or if Ron had gotten it? Because it was just one book, and only one of them could ever really be using it. So it would be very different if Ron had gotten it, because Ron's suddenly the best of potions. Then he'd be invited to Slughorn's parties.
Oh, yeah, that's true. He would be very happy, and it'd be a whole different book.
Yeah, it would be a totally different book. Would have started dating Lavender right away. Would have had the confidence to break up with her quickly. Ugh, that would be a totally different world. Okay, I have one last really short thing, and then we can wrap it up. I just noticed this actually as I was preparing to read the final sentence, that in the synopsis of the story about Arthur Weasley raiding the Malfoys' home looking for dark objects because Harry has tipped him off, the sentence reads, "The second search of the Death Eater's residence does not seem to have yielded any results." Okay, that's the government formal newspaper acknowledging that the Malfoys are Death Eaters. Like, they're literally saying the Malfoys are Death Eaters. Why are they not being surveilled? You know, like, if you know, the police do this in America anyway. I shouldn't assume that everyone listening is. If they assume that you're doing a drug deal or something, they'll surveil you if they think a crime's going to happen. So wouldn't there be some sort of intervention if you're acknowledging on a global scale that these people are on the enemy side?
I guess answer the question, if somebody was found to be a member of the KKK or a Nazi, what steps would they take? Like,
they get surveilled. The FBI watches them in America. That's what happens. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. I mean, that's sort of a theme that, we've talked about, how the Death Eaters are like one of those nationalist racist parties. And I mean, and we're American, right? So the book was written from a different geopolitical perspective, because Britain just operates differently about that. But also, I don't know, when you put it in newspaper, I would think that the government would be like, well, we've been arresting a bunch of people who don't actually turn out to be Death Eaters, but we're acknowledging these people are Death Eaters in the national paper. Maybe we should keep an eye on them.
Yeah, you're right. The ministry is the worst, honestly. I don't know.
True. That's what Harry should have said when Scrimgeour comes to him at Christmas and is like, come work with the ministry. And he'd be like, release Stan Shunpike and arrest Lucius Malfoy. Like, one is not a Death Eater, and the other one is, and you're not doing either of the things you should be doing. So, no.
Yeah, but he's not going to do that.
Yeah. Anyway, so my point there was that, like, they put it in writing, they put it in the newspaper, and still it's not enough to motivate the ministry to do anything about it. Which Harry would be infuriated, and I am infuriated on his behalf.
Yeah, especially as the public, you being like, man, we know they're Death Eaters, and we can't do anything.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's all I had in this one.
Yeah, me too. Amazing. Well, thank you all for joining us. This was a fun one. If you enjoyed yourself, then please head over to your podcast player of choice. Give us a 5-star rating and then a review. We love those reviews. We love to see them. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you guys like and what you don't like. I just talked to a couple friends. They are liking the short form. I want to know if you're liking the short form. Valerie wants to know, do you like these 15, 20 minutes? Please let us know. It helps us so that we can prepare for next season. So if you like it, give us a review, a rating. You can also head to social media. Valerie is much more involved this season with social media, and it is flourishing. So, proof is in the pudding. But if
I think we have like 11 more followers. Woo!
Okay, but our reels are doing well, and I feel like our page view, our listens are going up too, and I feel like that has to do with Instagram. Which is, they can reach us
all over the internet at Belljar Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We are on.
Yeah, there we go. You can also email us. Valerie has an amazing website, followthebutterflies.com. It is a Harry Potter website dedicated to all things Harry Potter. Whether you want to have a Harry Potter costume, a Harry Potter party, how many P's can I say? Yes, any type of Harry Potter thing you want, it is there. It is an incredible website, incredible resource. But email us, podcast@followthebutterflies.com, if you want to chat with us or you have anything to say that you don't feel like saying on a public forum.
Yep. And you should definitely leave us a rating and review. Oh, well, subscribe first if you're not subscribed. If you're brand new to the podcast, please subscribe. And then leave us a rating and review on your podcast player of choice. I was recently digging into the analytics. It seems like most of you are listening on Apple Podcasts, so that is pretty easy to do. If you go to our podcast page, you scroll to the bottom, just hit the star, whatever stars you think we've earned. And that's it. That's all you have to do to leave a rating. And if you want to leave a review, you can then type something in. But literally, it's like one click on the number of stars you think we've earned, and we get to see that. So we always appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, very much so. Well, cool. Well, we will be back tomorrow, or if you are ahead of time, then there's just another episode waiting on you. So keep going, and we will be with you shortly.
Yep. We'll see you next episode.